Hello and welcome to another segment of Interviews That Matter. I'm your host Raj Mehta. Friends, in this segment we bring those guests who influence our lives. This includes elected officials, policymakers, heads of major organizations and other dignitaries. It is my sincere hope that the knowledge brought in by our guests will help our community. Today we have such guest, Joe Concannon. Joe is running for City Council on November 5th. He represents District 23, which includes Belrose, Floral Park, and where a large number of our people live there. Let's meet Joe. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you very much for having me.
No problem.
Okay.
First, congratulations for throwing your hat into the City Council this November.
There's very, very important issues that are going on in the city of New York, and we are at a bit of a crossroads since we're at a mayoral election,
right.
And Mayor Bloomberg has to, go on and continue with his enterprise, and the city of New York is going to have new leadership.
New leadership, right? All across, actually.
Yes.
Yep. Controller and mayor.
Oh, every
council,
office is up for election. So
right.
we're digging in deep now.
So before we go, I would like to know your background. That where do you come from and why do you want to do this?
Well, thanks. I really appreciate you asking that. In my background, I come from the law enforcement community as a professional, career.
Okay.
But before that, I think it's probably important for the viewers to know, because they only see us as these personas, right? Business owners and public officials. But I'm a father of three fine children,
Very nice.
Lauren, Megan, and Brian.
Mm-hmm.
And married 30 years to my wife Teresa, love her dearly, and grew up in the Belrose community, over at St. Gregory the Great Parish in Queens County, and we have a wonderful home over there and some great neighbors, and I chose a career of public service to be a police officer many years ago.
Okay.
And through that I went to night school, earned my bachelor's and master's degree in public administration, and from there proceeded up the ranks of NYPD as well. Became a sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and I felt very much at the crossroads at around 1991 that I wanted to try and do more if I could for the city of New York. And I was asked on to the Giuliani administration team, and I was his director for public safety.
Oh, okay.
That was a unique opportunity, to be honest with you. It was an opportunity of a lifetime to really take a look at all public safety, apparatuses, programs, and agencies in the city of New York. And Mayor Giuliani had such a unique way of driving interest and creating excitement in New York City for what could happen, what the possibilities would be down the road, and how he could clean up New York City. And that was just a tremendous experience for me. It was very enlightening and gave me really a very, very high level overview of what was going on in every public safety agency, not just my own home agency, which was NYPD. Through that, after 2001, the attack on the World Trade Centers, 2002 I retired from NYPD, and I joined a program called InfoGard, INFRAGARD, and that is a public-private program of the FBI. I was so honored to serve that. It was my way of giving back to the citizens of New York and, quite frankly, to the United States, because we were one of the world-class programs that they had running all throughout the United States. Because of our interest, we took a program that had 4 members, and when I left it, over 5,000 members.
Oh, okay.
So there were quite a few people involved, and it was that program was all about national critical infrastructure protection. So we were talking to the leaders of companies from not only in New York City, but from New York to California, about what was going on, what were the best practices and things of that nature. And last year I ran for New York State Senate, And as I like to tell everybody, I came in second place. And
Nice.
you know, that's a good thing. Hey, you know, it's all about awareness.
Yes.
And it's not just about one person
Right.
thinking that they own the political process. Just because they've either been there or because they've got, you know, some great creds in a particular area, or because they're advancing the cause for one particular interest group, right? It's all about the, you know, 2 or 3 or maybe 5 party system. Everybody throwing their hat in the race and getting involved in democracy. And that's exciting. All right, because we see so many people getting involved in democracy these days. So it was a great experience, even though I came in second. It still was a great experience because you actually get out to where the rubber meets the road and you can actually talk to people.
That's the key.
And
right.
that's the key. You find out what their problems are
Right.
and what their frustration level is.
Right.
You know, and so many people are frustrated with this economy and where it's going, and so many people are, you know, last year there were 35 state officials brought up on corruption charges, and you know, it seems like there's no end to that. And I am a fresh, clean voice into the political environment. So, you know, for me, it was a great experience. Of course, I took a few months off, and in June 1st, with some associates of mine, created Integris Security.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a small, what I like to call a boutique security firm. And we deal a lot with compliance issues in information technology, but not solely there. We've also will advise on college campus security and things of that nature, more in the physical side of the house. But we do a lot of on the technical side of the house.
Okay.
Code validation, penetration testing, you know, scanning and things of that nature. And to be quite frank with you, I had no plans of running for public office.
Okay.
None at all. I was going to skip this election cycle completely because I had my young company. You know, it's almost like having a new baby.
Right,
You know what
right,
it's like.
right, absolutely.
You know, you want to grow this and nurture it.
Right.
You know, build on your contacts and do some good out there. And of course, you know, make some money. That would keep my wife very happy, right?
Of course. She has to shop.
And the kids as well.
Yep,
You know, they have an insatiable appetite for wanting more all the time. And of course, Dad's got to be the provider.
Right.
So, you know, I was merrily along my path with all of that, and I had, you know, was thinking actually of how do I spend down some of that campaign money that I had.
Okay.
You know, and I was out there trying to help and inspire other young candidates getting into the field and giving some campaign contributions and paying for a mailing for one person and doing these different things, which I thought was a wholesome way to use, you know, my campaign money, especially since I wasn't running again.
Right.
And then along came, I guess for lack of a better word, this atom bomb that almost blew up in my face, and not in a bad way, but you know. Information, you know, all of a sudden became aware to me that I really wasn't following because I was so close on building my own business. And this was the Community Safety Act.
Okay.
In New York City.
Okay.
The Community Safety Act is a combination of New York City Council intros 1079 and 1080.
Okay.
And in 1079, it talks about establishing a police monitor in New York City.
Okay.
And 1080 has to do with criminal profiling, which is really bewildered a lot of people since Mayor Bloomberg had already passed some legislation regarding the city of New York not profiling and things of that nature, right? So, you know, but, you know, that came in front of me, and then quickly I was distracted because my associates needed me. We were building clients,
Right.
you know, and
dual hat you wearing.
yeah, it was, you know, it's almost like Heckle and Jide, you know,
Right.
you know, pulling you this way and then pulling you that way and trying to figure out, you know, what to do. And some of the people were saying to me, no, Joe, this is no good. And I said, come on, it's a Community Safety Act.
Right.
What could be wrong about Community Safety Act? You know, and it was a very, very clever way for the city council to really build upon something very, very radical that they wanted to do. And, you know, I get into it a little bit more, Raj, with, you know, the city of New York and the police department especially have so many monitors put upon them.
Oh.
You know, they have a patrol guide which is about a foot thick,
Wow.
filled with rules from previous people who decided to come in and say, hey, NYPD, you're doing things wrong, you got to do it this way. All right, and each one of the procedures in that book are based on some sort of legal precedent or policy that got changed because of outside groups influencing the police department, right? And of course, NYPD has its, you know, famed Internal Affairs Bureau, which is probably the fear of every police officer on the street. Nobody wants to get mixed up, you know, with the Internal Affairs Bureau. They'll come down very hard on police officers that they think are headed the wrong way. And then, of course, they've got a borough, you know, Internal Affairs unit, and then they've got local integrity control officers in each one of their commands. And that's just internal to the NYPD.
Wow, wow.
Yeah, that's just the internal piece. And then when you look on the outside, you're looking at 5 district attorney offices,
Wow.
each one of them with a police, you know, abuse and corruption unit, right? And then from there, you've got the, you know, Civilian Complaint Review Board, which the police commissioner just signed a special, I'd call it a compact with the Speaker of the City Council, Christine Quinn,
Right.
to give them more access, to give them a little bit more teeth, and allow them closer into the process.
Right, right.
Now, on top of that, for really serious things that go on within the police department, where officers have just, you know, gone totally misguided, you've got 2 U.S. attorneys' offices,
Oh, wow.
the Southern and Eastern District of New York. So
Layers after layers.
well,
Unbelievable.
and you know, that's my point. And who's paying for this?
People.
You're paying,
We are paying.
the U.S. attorney's offices, you're paying
Yeah,
for
we
it.
are paying for
The
it.
5 district attorney's offices,
Yep.
the people are paying for that.
Yes, yes.
For CCRB, the people are paying for
Right,
that.
right.
And for all of these other oversight units,
Right.
even the city council itself has oversight responsibilities. All right? To monitor and control what's going on in the police department of the city of New York, to interview police management officials if they think things are going wrong.
Wow.
You know, so we've got all of these different things coming along, and then the city council, which I think they're kind of trying to abrogate their duty. They're trying to put it off to somebody else instead of handling it internally amongst themselves and working within the police department and the city of New York's bureaucratic structures that are there. All right. Instead, what they want to do is they want to add another layer, and that's what 1079 is all about.
Oh, okay.
It's about appointing another police monitor. Only this time they want to put him in DOI. And the shocker of that, if that wasn't enough for really the audience to understand, it's at a cost of $3.5 million. You know, I don't know if there's anyone else that has that kind of money available.
Right.
And what is that going to do to the working class of New York?
Right.
And what kind of signal does that send to the people of the city of New York?
Right.
You know, by and large, I've got to be honest with you. And I've always been, you know, critical of my own department. You know, the officers and supervisors and even the management at times. I've been very critical of them. All right, but critical with the eye that we want the best for the citizens of the city of New York.
Right.
Right. I
Right,
mean,
of
that's
course.
what it's all about.
Yep.
But we've got a world-class police commissioner. I don't know if Ray Kelly decides to leave. I don't know who fills his shoes in and does it at the level that he's been able to do it.
Right.
He is a polished professional.
Right.
All right.
Yes.
And he does his job very well.
Right.
He manages 38,000 people, and that's just the armed officers. And you know, you got to add another layer of 10 to 20,000 civilian workforce on top of that. He's got a 50,000 person army
Wow.
that he's running every single day of the week.
Wow.
So for the city council to come in and say, you know, they need another police monitor, you know, it's just not right. It's not right for the taxpayers. It's not right for the police officers. I've been on that front line, and it is a difficult job. A very difficult job. We have the finest police officers that the world knows.
Right.
The New York's, there's a reason they call it New York finest.
Right.
That's because these men and women are dedicated to serving the citizens of the people of New York. And Ray Kelly came out in an article not too long ago And what are you talking about? And it's more than 7,000 lives. He is talking about the 7,700 lives that NYPD has saved because of all the positive police work and proactive police work that they're doing in the city of New York. All right. So, I mean, that covers, 1079, which is, the establishment, and I'd say foolhardy establishment of adding just another layer, into the bureaucracy, and all so that some bureaucrat can appoint, who the police monitor is, who will have the title of commissioner.
Wow, interesting. So you already have all these layers, and on top of that, one more.
Well,
and whose brain is this? Whose brainchild?
Well, it's what I'd like to say is this is probably the brainchild and born out of some of the grievance peddlers in the city council, and some people who would like to stir up racial tensions in the city of New York.
Wow.
And by and large, a lot of them, don't even live in the city. They live in New Jersey and other places around the country. They come into Manhattan and in Brooklyn, when there's an unfortunate scene of events. And they tend to, stir it up to hyperbolic fashion, so that the people who live in the neighborhoods are misguided by what's going on. You will find that no matter where you go, the community is incredibly supportive of NYPD, especially in those communities that are facing more crime. They meet with the precinct community councils. They sit down and they talk with the local commanders and the local management and supervisory team at every precinct around the city. It's a wonderful dialogue that gets mixed up in these communities, where the police and the citizens of the community have an opportunity to come together and really speak out on what the issues are. And that's where some of the sensitivity comes in as well, because the police hear firsthand from those members of the community, what's ailing them, what's the problem, and then they hear back from the police department, well, hey, listen, we're getting reports of shootings, of robberies, of grand larcenies, of domestic violence, going on in the community. And you've got to take that back to your churches, to your community programs and things of that nature, right? All these different methods of communicating with people who reside in the community, and you've got to bring up their knowledge base in these areas. Because at the end of the day, the citizens of the city of New York run their local police precincts. They actually run them. Because those local precinct commanders, they have to listen to those citizens. Because that's, the police department doesn't create crime reports. They report them.
Exactly.
It's the citizens who actually come and give that information to the police department.
Very important.
So that they become aware. So, it's a very, very big issue. When we, I'm going to segue now into 1080, Intro 1080, which is this criminal profiling bill. Criminal profiling in the city of New York has been outlawed by the mayor. All right. So to bring up Intro 1080, all right, and this whole thing about how the city of New York, is doing something illegal, is just quite frankly, it's more waste, to say the least, but it's also something that is going to blindfold and handcuff the police officers in the city. Let me explain to you some of the things that are going on in this bill.
Okay.
All right. And to say that this is just reckless is putting it mildly, in certainly in my opinion. All right. And I would think that my opponent in this race, Mark Weprin, would have known better, because Mark is generally an individual who shows some reason and some understanding for a lot of issues in the city of New York. But in this area, he is so far off the boat. It's creating a firestorm in the community that he represents. In this scenario, what would happen is this: police officers who work within a community would be prohibited from putting descriptions over the radio.
Wow. Okay.
All right. So, male, white, dark blue suit.
So
Well,
how can you recognize it?
well, that's
how
the
can you do
point,
that?
because it would create disparate impact. Well, Sammy the cop is putting over Joe Concannon's description every day, and he's criminally profiling male whites.
Wow.
All right, in blue suits and blue ties and white shirts. All right, so that's why. Let me see this for a second.
Sure.
That's why in this particular article, all right, the head of the Captain's Endowment Association, all right, has a blindfold on, because that's what this law will do. It will blindfold the police officers, and it'll also handicap them. All right, because what we've had in the past, people don't realize this. Back in 1991.
Right.
We had close to 700,000 reported crimes in the city of New York every year. All right. Do you know many they are now?
How many?
Just a little over 100,000.
Oh, wow. So we went down a lot.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
We used to have 2,200 murders a year at our high point. All right, and people didn't have a stomach for it then. They demanded change, and we were a very reactive police department at that time. Now we're proactive, and we're getting out into those communities, and not just anywhere in any community, but because of the reporting that is coming from the citizens of the people of New York, right? Because of that reporting, we are able to pinpoint exactly where we deploy our resources.
Makes sense.
That is what Commissioner Kelly is doing.
Wow,
so
makes sense, yeah.
A lot of people are saying that, the stop, question, and frisk,
Right.
all right, which is very controversial for some.
Yes.
And most of it is the grievance peddlers,
Right.
all right, and those people that are looking to stir racial tensions in the city.
Yeah.
All right. What they don't realize is that the police department is focusing in narrowly and specifically to where the crimes are being committed, and trying to keep the guns off the street. That is a huge task.
Yes.
There are police officers who have died, been injured in the line of duty, trying to help the citizens of the city of New York.
Yep.
And I think that point kind of gets lost with these rebel rousers that, and there are certain ones in the city council, all right, and they bring in their friends from outside the city to stir everybody up, create controversy, and really make much out of nothing. Are there problems in NYPD? Of course. Any agency where you put 50,000 people together, there are going to be issues.
Right. Yeah.
And some may be more serious than others.
Right.
All right. But it is probably out of the entire department, probably 1%.
Right.
All right, if you add all the complaints and everything up, it's a very, very small microcosm of the entire department. Now, mind you, if something bad does happen, it does cast a bad shadow over everyone, and we understand that. The job, the people at NYPD understand it, and that's why they try and bring in different performance standards and things of that nature, and that's why they have a very strong internal affairs bureau. And that's why the commissioner gave more power over to the Civilian Complaint Review Board. And of course, the 5 district attorneys' offices are all looking at this.
Yes.
So these things are very, very important for the people to know. This particular legislation, the Community Safety Act, which is more commonly known as the Criminal Protection Act, all right, because it will embolden and embrazen, all right, the criminal element, which is, again, a very small element of people in the city of New York. Right? But it will embrazen them to come out into the streets. And I use 2 examples.
Right.
All right? The first example is, I think about 2 weeks ago, we had a young boy running down the streets of Brooklyn, all right, with a, I don't know if it was a machine pistol or an automatic weapon, all right, firing at another drug dealer. 14 years old.
Wow, 14 years. So.
Can you think of what you and I were doing when we were 14 years old?
Wow.
Maybe crab apples?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. Having a fist fight with maybe somebody, at the worst.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A machine pistol?
Wow.
An automatic weapon in the hands of a 14-year-old? And that not long after that, what did we see next? We saw another, what I call these kids babies. You know, 14 years old.
That is, they are babies.
They've got a life ahead of them.
Right.
Another young fella on a bicycle, and he pulls up to a bodega, and what does he do? He walks inside the bodega, point blank range, and points the gun at the owner of the shop and takes him out. This is what happens when you pull back the police, when you blindfold them and handcuff them. Did you know that for the second quarter of this year, we have 58% less stop, question, and frisk? That means that's 58% fewer street encounters with the police and people in that district where there's high violent crime. So what do you think the result is going to be if that happens?
But it's political, everything is, right now, whatever happened in, council last week, it's political basically.
Well,
because of election, mayoral election.
Well, it is. I think they're catering to the special interests of the hate the police crowd.
It's just,
And we really need your viewers to rise above that and understand that was wrong. And that there needs to be a price to pay for that. And that's why I'm involved in this election. I'm in this election, quite frankly, because I care about the safety and security of our citizens of New York. That's why I'm in this. Not for any political points, so I can become the Speaker of the City Council, or want to be mayor of the City of New York, or controller, or public advocate, or some other grandiose type of thing. I'm genuinely concerned, and you know why I'm concerned? Because my family lives here.
Right.
My family lives here. They have for years. My father-in-law is a retired fire captain for NYPD. My mother-in-law is a retired nurse. Wife is a school teacher, and my kids all work in the area. My son's I call him a freshly minted United States Marine. Very proud of him, and my girls as well. They're all doing a wonderful job, but they live in the community.
Right.
And that's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about that. And I think, quite frankly, my opponent in this race, Mark Weprin, has taken a political risk. And he thinks the people of Eastern Queens are falling asleep, that they're not aware of what's going on. This was all done, in the back rooms of City Hall. This wasn't put for voter referendum.
Oh, okay.
You and I didn't get a chance to vote on this.
Right.
And say, oh yeah, I'm in favor of the Community Safety Act. I understand what it's all about. We didn't get that opportunity. This was all done, as people would lay it out. The smoke-filled, back room, the bowel of City Hall.
Right.
Where all the evil things happen. Right. Well, that's where this happened. And they horse traded. And I've gotten the support and the endorsement of every single police union in the city of New York. What really stunned me when I got that endorsement was they stood up to the podium in public air and said that Mark Weprin had lied to them and lied to them repeatedly. And that is something that it stunned me a little bit, and I said, gee, did he really do that? And then I talked to the guys later on. He says, yeah. He said he was not in favor of that act. He said he wouldn't vote for it. And he said that's not something he wants to do. He said that he supports the police.
Right.
Well, you can't support the police and vote for that act at the same time. You can't put blindfolds on our cops out in the street. And I got to be honest with you, because I was a police officer, I'm incredibly sensitive to our younger police officers who are out there. Because the older ones have the time and experience, and they understand the politics involved with everything. But our new police officers, whether they're here in the city or anywhere really across the nation, you go into police work really with a high ideal of service. To the community, how people, as we say, go out and change the world. Make it a better place. And they go out, with these platitudes, and everybody pumps them up and things like that. So, I'm really worried about them because they could get hurt out there.
Right, of course, yeah. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Sure, great,
Please
thanks.
stay with us. Welcome back to Interviews That Matter. We're having a wonderful conversation with Captain Joe Concannon, and who is running for City Council, District 11? I believe?
District 23.
District 23, sorry.
That's
sorry.
all right.
District 23, November. Welcome back, sir.
Yeah, November 5th is the election. It'll be around the corner any minute.
There you go, there you go.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your district now.
Sure.
What is it made of? What areas are
Well, let me
covered?
lay it out a little
Yeah.
bit for you. So
Okay,
we've got
sure.
Queens Village,
Okay,
all right, running along Jamaica Avenue.
okay,
Then we have Belrose, Floral Park, New Hyde Park.
okay. Oh, New Hyde Park is included?
Yeah, New Hyde Park, Queens.
Okay, oh, Queens, okay.
Yeah, all right. And then Glen Oaks, Oakdale Gardens, all right.
Okay.
Parts of Bayside,
Okay,
just a tip over by Northern Boulevard.
okay.
And then we go into Fresh Meadows, Hollis Wood. That nice little area.
Okay.
It's an absolutely beautiful area.
Right, yeah. And you live in Belrose, obviously.
I do
right?
live in Belrose.
Right,
I
yeah.
actually was, I grew up in Belrose. I've been part of that community both as a civic leader and involved in athletic and church programs as well.
Good. So
Thank you.
Do you like Indian food though?
Yeah, I do like some, not all.
Not all. Okay. Well, I'm sure you met a lot from our community. Lot of
Yes,
people
I
from our
have.
community,
I've actually
and,
been introduced to quite a few people
quite a
in the
few people.
community, so I'm
Yeah.
happy for that.
because the district you are running is a lot of people from our community.
Yeah, I am
besides
aware of that. It's a growing population
Right.
here in the city of New York, and as
Right.
well as in my district, as well as really in Belrose.
Belrose, right? Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a very, very strong community.
So let me go back to Giuliani administration, right? Mayor Giuliani has really done a lot of cleanup in the whole city, and he would be definitely is one of the most successful mayor in the history of New York City.
Oh, without doubt.
And you had a chance to work with him. Of course, you saw him, met him many times. What kind of a person he was?
Hey, he's a terrific leader. He understands the bureaucracy in New York City.
Okay.
He understands the importance of dealing with the budget in New York City.
Right.
And he certainly understood, and this is something that I think has been lost on some, that the crime situation in New York City
Right.
was centered to the viability of the economy of New York City. What business do you know that would want to move into a crime-plagued city?
Nobody.
Nobody,
Nobody,
right? And
absolutely.
he knew that, and he understood that. It was the centerpiece
Right.
of everything that he did, because he knew if he could abate the crime patterns and escalating crime condition in New York City,
Right.
he knew people love New York.
Right.
They come here from all over the world
Yep.
to taste our food, to sample our restaurants, the theater district in New York.
Beautiful.
I mean, this just,
It's amazing.
I could go through it. I
Yep.
mean, I constantly
Yeah.
talk to people that I know from my national dealings.
Right.
They say, "Hey, Joe, if I come to New York, what can happen?" I said, "Well, you got to go to St. Patrick's Cathedral. You got to go down to the Seaport. Don't forget to stop at the library of 42nd Street. Take a walk down Madison Avenue.
Right.
Don't, be careful if you come in over Christmas, because you'll be lucky to find room on the sidewalks of Fifth Avenue.
Right.
They're
Right.
packed."
They're packed. Right.
And you go through all of this. New York is a beautiful, beautiful and vibrant city. It's terrific.
So working with him, you were like a part of his team, right?
I was his deputy director for public safety, and I
Right.
had specific oversight for all operations on public safety agencies.
Good, very good.
I also created, well, I shouldn't say I created, I continued the mayor's management report. It was one of my duties, where we reported semi-annually on the condition and performance of what agencies were doing within the city of New York, and how they were adhering to the policies of Mayor Giuliani at that time. And we also, at my departure, we had just made the mayor's management report in digital format, so it would be available on any computer for anyone to pull down around the city. Up until that point, it was like a giant telephone book full of digital information, which a lot of widgets. But the mayor actually, what he wanted to know how his policies were positively impacting the city of New York. So we made it thinner. But we made it more accountable for the agencies to react to the policies of the mayor. So it was actually it was a wholesome report card of what the mayor was doing.
So at that time, you had to deal with also many councilmen, council people, and all that also, right? So
Yeah, well, we had our legislative affairs unit,
Legislative.
which kind of concentrated on what
Right.
the different member concerns and things of that nature were. But I really took a very, very deep look at what was going on at public safety
Right.
in the city of New York, as well as emergency management here in the city of New York. You know, there was a great transition in emergency management under Mayor Giuliani. Mayor Giuliani was a very strong mayor, all right, and we took the Office of Emergency Management out of one agency and we gave it over to the mayor. So it's the mayor's Office of Emergency Management now. That continues today, by the way.
Oh, okay. So November 5th, let's say, you know, I mean, you're going to be successful, that we know that. You know, you have some, you know, power there.
Well,
you know?
thank you.
You know, so what will be your first act on, let's say, January 1 when you start your being a councilman?
It's a great question. You know, there's one thing that every voter in Eastern Queens can rest assured on,
Right.
and that's this issue. And the issue is that I will never take for granted their safety or security here in the city of New York.
Okay.
Whether it deals with education, whether it deals with health, whether it deals with the Department of Environmental Protection and getting timely spraying over our neighborhoods for mosquitoes and preventing West Nile and things of that nature. No matter what the issue is, sanitation and plowing of our streets, every single agency of the city of New York, it goes to the safety and security of the citizens of New York. You know, there is one project I'd like to talk about,
Sure.
and I have to admit I didn't originate this idea, but I heard it at another meeting I was at, and that's, you know, we had a great storm here not too long ago, Hurricane Sandy.
Sandy, right.
And
yes,
you know, I think you and I know firsthand it
Right.
devastated a lot of areas.
Yep, worst.
And in Queens County, we saw in the Belrose Floral Park area, you know, tree after tree taking down power lines, communication lines, and things of that nature. So why shouldn't a city councilman advocate to take those lines off the poles and put them under the ground?
Underground, right, yeah.
Now
makes
that's a ready-made job, shovel ready.
Right.
All right,
yeah.
and that's something that we could do here in the city of New York that would benefit senior citizens who are homebound and others, as well as moms and dads trying to get their kids in and out of school and not having to worry about those sorts of things. It's bad enough
Right.
when the trees come down.
Right.
The Parks Department and others can come down and saw them quickly.
Right.
But when they're all tangled in wires and nobody knows whether they're alive or not,
Right, yeah.
it only continues the pain more often. I've got a 92-year-old mother-in-law we look after. And, you know, for her to go without electricity and any of her essential services, you know, grandma, she watches TV every day.
Right, of course.
You know, it's one way that she communicates
Right.
with the rest of, you know, society. You know, she hears what's going on. So that's something that I'd like to see the city council work on.
Oh, okay.
And work on with Con Edison and the rest of their partners in that particular area to do something positive for the citizens of Queens.
So that's in your agenda, basically.
That certainly
That
would
would
be
be
something on my
something that
agenda,
you
and
want, right.
that's a safety and security issue.
Safety and right. Yeah, I agree with you. So I wanted to find out what is your last message for our community.
My name is Joe Concannon. I'm running for City Council in District 23 in Eastern Queens. I certainly want to get out and see many, many more of you. I'd certainly like to have a coffee and enjoy that with any of the citizens in the area. So if you want to get together with a few of your neighbors, invite me over. I certainly would love to do that. I think New York has a great diversity. And, you know, the people certainly from the Indian community, the East Asian community,
Right.
they are very entrepreneurial.
Yes.
All right. I'm running on the reform line.
Okay.
The Reform Party line.
Okay.
I'll be all the way over on the right on the ballot box.
Okay.
All right, when people look for me. And I'm a fresh new voice for Queens County. And I hope you get out and vote, register to vote, and then get out to vote. And don't forget Joe Concannon this November 5th.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can email me at rajmitv@gmail.com. Again, that's rajmitv@gmail.com. If you like to watch our prior shows, you can go to youtube.com/Infosys International. That's again youtube.com/Infosys International. Until next time, have a great week. Thank you.